Welcome back to another episode of the Hooper's Almanac. Today we are going to go over. I just got back this morning at 3 a.m. from Memphis. My brother and I went to see Grizzlies Thunder, and so we'll do a little bit of a recap. I don't want to spoil too much because I also have a blog post coming out the next 24 hours just about the trip. Hopefully you guys like that too. And then we bring on Districts of Buckets owner Carl Baltimore. We talk about the trade deadline. We talk about Unrivaled, and Adam actually has a buddy to talk about that with, and I'm happy for him. And so we talk about Carl's trip to Miami just to go watch those games as well. So super excited about that. That'll be a blast. And then that's the pod today. So before we get going, let's bring in our friends from Green Top. Adam, we're back. Adam, it's been a week. We're still freaked out and so super confused about the Luka Doncic trade. I can't speak coherently because I'm running on 2 hours of sleep, which is what we wanted to start with today. I just got back this morning. I stepped through my front door at 3 a.m. My wife was leaving for work at 5:30 a.m. On a Sunday morning, and I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. I got back from Memphis. We talked last night after the game.
We did. Which is why I was so surprised. Why I knew you were on very little sleep, because I know we talked and it was pretty late at that point, and you guys still had quite a bit of the drive to go.
Yeah.
I was just kind of curious about y'all's experience, and you had on speaker there with Evan, and then I get a text from you about 6:30 this morning. I was not awake yet, and I was just like, you're like, oh, Carl might move times, and he's like, when can you record? And I was just like, good lord, when did this guy sleep? I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm a night owl, but this is a different level. So a nap is due before the Super Bowl for you, I think.
Oh, I texted my wife. I was like, "Hey, here's the things I want to get done today." When we were changing times for Carl, I decided to go get a coffee, go to Target, go do chores around the house, then try to do a productive morning so that way I can do as much now and then nap the second finish editing everything today. I also do have to run to T-Mobile to get a new phone screen protector at some point, so I do have to do that. But I want to talk about the experience of last night's game. I don't want to talk about the full experience because I'll talk about that in my blog that our blog post that comes out this week. But I just do want to talk about the game. So we went and saw Thunder versus Grizzlies. It was my third time in the FedEx Forum, and I kind of love just Memphis's crowd. I just love the atmosphere there. Evan and I were talking about it on the way down. I think three of the four cities around us, three of the four closest cities to us, so Oklahoma City, Indiana, and Memphis, just have incredible fan atmospheres. Chicago has a decent one, but just with their team being so mediocre recently, it's pretty tough. But
I think when they're good, it's pretty rowdy, but it's right. They haven't been good for a bit now.
Right, and former co-host Aaron Carter now works there, and so I can't say many mean things. However, their in-game host guy, I can't take seriously on League Pass ever, and so just watching that in person, I feel bad too. But anyways, went saw the game yesterday in Memphis, and I love the atmosphere. Evan and I were telling you about this last night, though. For the first half of the game, I think we sat near the most casual NBA fans ever, because there were some guys who clearly had bets on the game who were pissed that Ja wasn't scoring, that Ja had 0 points after the first half. There were some guys who claimed that flagrant fouls used to equal 4 free throws, which was the funniest thing that I heard all night and probably the stupidest. And then there was some lady, no kidding, before the game had even started, had to be around Evan and I's age, girlfriend or wife, that had sat down in her seat for 5 minutes and was passed out before game time even started. She was asleep, just knocked out. And so Evan looks at me, he's like, I think the girl next to me is asleep. And I look, I'm like, oh, she was doing the bobbing chicken head. It was the,
oh, wow.
it was so funny. But the game was fun until the third quarter when the Thunder started blowing them out, and then the Grizzlies came back. But it just always felt like it was in Thunder control. But I think last night really clarified just how good this Thunder team is, and they were without Chet, Dort, and Kason Wallace. So, and SGA didn't have like a great game. It was the Aaron Wiggins game to
Yeah,
me
no,
at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. I would say Shea was like what, like 4 of like 15 or something like that. Like he did not shoot well.
Gross. Yeah, it was gross. But Aaron Wiggins had 8 threes last night, and I mean, this is like 2 weeks ago. He had the 40-point game, and I think I, I said this in the blog too, but I think Wiggins might be one of my favorite bench players in the NBA right now. Like if I'm creating like a team that could be like a play-in team, like but all the guys were just like bench players, Aaron Wiggins would be one of my first few picks.
Wow. Yeah, I mean he's really good. I mean he's like so like again a perfect example of like the level of their depth because he's capable of like, he played on probably 25 other teams. Like he'd be one of their best scorers. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's just that team is just loaded, man. I mean you saw it in person last night. It's like they just feel like they have an answer for everything.
they do. And again, another casual thing we heard last night. Someone said it's SGA and a bunch of random guys. I'm like, well, I can clearly tell you, Jalen Williams and Aaron Wiggins are not just some random guys, nor
No,
is Chet Holmgren.
no. Or Isaiah Hartenstein. I
So
mean, yeah, no, these are good players. Like like I don't I just people just don't get it. Like it's not like a name, like a I
yeah.
guarantee you, Kyle Kuzma is like 10 times more famous than Aaron Wiggins, and Aaron Wiggins is a much better player.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it's hard to hear because again, it's just like these small market teams that don't
Yeah.
get as much publicity, and it
Fame
sucks.
does not equal ability.
No. But we also last night on our call did confirm that the us two and Evan are going to go to 2 NBA games in March together.
We
So
are.
I'm excited about that as well. All that to be said, last night Thunder won. Fun timing Memphis. I think of the 3 trips that we've done to Memphis, I think we had the best food of all the 3 trips. We went to Gus's famous fried chicken, and it was fried. It was Southern fried chicken. We've had some okay underwhelming barbecue in the past, and this was what I needed from Memphis, and it provided well.
I went to Gus's with your brother Evan when I was his coach back in the day. We went to a
7 years
game.
ago.
Yes, we went to a game in Memphis. The 2 times I've been to Memphis Grizzlies games was with Evan when he was
Oh my
playing,
gosh.
and that was a big thing of mine when I got to that school. I was like, I want to do like team building events and things like that. So I was like, I'd love to take these guys to an NBA game, but the closest one is Memphis. So yeah, I got the okay from the school and from some parents, and they're like, yeah, you can go do it. So the first night we stayed in Memphis because there was a dad that went with me, and so we had kind of like an extra chaperone. The second time, there was a couple mishaps. It was just me. I was the only coach at the time. I was 20. I just turned 27, and
Oh yeah,
and yeah, I was in charge of I think about 12 guys, including
my brother.
like 9 freshmen. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
your brother and the 2 other seniors we had on the team like were kind of like my chaperones, and they really helped out. And your brother came in clutch with a lost key situation at one
but
point.
let's be honest though, it wasn't your fault. It was his fault.
What, the key?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll tell the story. Why not? So
Well, I mean, we have no ties to the school anymore.
it doesn't matter. Yeah,
You don't work there, and I'm there. That school has been renamed.
Yes, yeah, totally different. Yeah, we don't even have to say it. So I was their assistant coach. Evan was a senior, and I was the assistant coach on the varsity team. And my role was we had like an older head coach, and who was an amazing coach. He's the best coach I've ever worked with. But my role was very much like
Really?
the kind of like the go between like the players and coaches, and like build relationships and like that. And that's how I coach anyway. So it was an awesome. I mean, I had an amazing 2 years. I mean, I will always look back so fondly on those 2 teams. But they were very different. The Evans junior year and Evans senior year. We obviously
Yeah.
had a bunch of new kids came in, and we had a kind of a freshman heavy team his senior year, and we were very good. We lost in the state quarterfinal to a really good team that ended up winning state. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fun year. So we go to Memphis. It's like December. I think it was kind of mid-December, and everything goes great. We got there early. We went to went to Gus's, did a bunch of stuff, walked around. We did some walking in Memphis, if you will. And then and then game happens. Awesome. We split up into groups. We were all sitting together at the top to start the game. And then we split up into groups of like 3 or 4 to see who could like move down. Evan was with me. So we succeeded. We moved down like pretty close, and there was a point I was wearing like joggers, and I had the keys to the van that we drove. It was a 15-passenger van that we drive around, and there was a point I guess where I put my feet up on the thing in front of me. I guess it was at that time that the key had fallen out of my pocket, so it was on the ground under my seat. But I didn't realize that till we were almost to the van after the game. So like we had walked all the way out, and I remember reaching for my pocket, and I felt this like just absolute panic. I was trying to stay calm in the moment because I was like in the middle of talking to the guys, and we're all walking as a team back, and everyone's having fun, and we're like, oh, where are we going to stop to eat? And we were not going to stay there that night. We were just going to drive straight back to St.
Right.
Louis. That was the deal
Like
the
we
school
did.
made. Yes. And so it's like they're like, you can go, but you got to come back the same night. Like the parents don't want to pay for hotels. Like, all right, it's going to be late, but it's fine. And man, I just had this just wave of panic, and I was like, okay, I cannot tell the whole team this yet. I was like, let me just get the seniors and just kind of quietly be like, hey guys, like I don't have the key. It's probably at my seat. I know I had it when I went down to those lower seats. Like, what the heck do we do? And Evan was like, I'll go back. And so I kind of just distracted the guys. We kept walking towards the van, which was like way out in this parking lot away from the arena. And Evan went back, and I was texting him like, any update? He's like, they let me back in. I told him the situation. And so he went and he found it. It was under my seat. The key was just laying there under my seat. The arena was empty. Like they had already emptied it out, and there was just like people cleaning. And the usher, like I think he like gave the usher a high five and ran back out. And so like I just see Evan. So he texted me and said I found it. So he came around the corner, but the other guys said no. So at this point, they started to figure like we got to the van, like I wasn't opening it, and they were kind of like where's Evan? Like what's going on? And I was like, well, I was like we may have lost the key. And so he comes around the corner, we see him, and he just stops and puts both hands up, and he's holding the key, and everyone just went nuts. And then we got in the van, and someone hooked up their phone to like the aux. I think it was Zach Niemeyer, and he started playing that like Jay-Z. I got the keys, and they just started going crazy in the backseat.
Oh my god!
So yeah,
well, yeah, with that crew, that would have been the best.
Oh yeah. So that was a fun night. So I think we stopped like a Wendy's and ordered just like an insane amount of food and just had like trash everywhere when we got back. But very fun night. But it could have been a disaster had we not actually found the key. So yeah, that was when I nearly got fired for losing a key and being stuck with 15 kids in a in a different city. I did have the school card that I was supposed to use for gas, and I was like, I guess I'll use this for a hotel. Like I don't really know like what I'm gonna do, but yeah. So it ended up working out, and thanks to your brother,
you're gonna stay at the Peabody.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Sure, they would have.
We looked at prices for the we made a pit stop there last night just to get a drink, and we saw the price of the rooms. Not bad on a Saturday night.
Okay,
so could have been doable.
It was a Saturday night that we went. Back in 2017. But yeah,
crazy. Love that. That's our talk of Memphis. Back and forth trips from Memphis. We're going to be right back after this. We're going to bring on Carl Baltimore. We're going to talk some trade deadline and then wrap it up with some Unrivaled stuff. So we'll be right back. We are back, and it's been a minute since we've had him on the podcast. It's only right that we brought him on after the deadline because his Wizards made so many trades during this deadline. We brought on Carl Baltimore, owner of District of Buckets, and Carl, I want to start here. How does it feel to now have the worst duo trade with Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart on your team now?
Oh, that's a great way to phrase it. Well, I'd say more so than the players involved. Like it was a pieces trade. I kind of like seeing what the new GM, that whole regime is doing. So the reason I want to talk about Marcus Smart is because it finally, at a deadline trade, the Wizards got a first round pick and gave up second round picks instead of the collection of second rounders that from the Ernie regime and all that. Like that's what I've been accustomed to. So I mean, I'm still thinking long term with the way the team's building. So I mean, hopefully I get to see some healthy Chris Middleton, maybe play some good games, maybe get some Marcus Smart, I get some fun here and there. But really just want to see the young guys develop and them keep getting assets, which is what the Wizards did at the deadline. So just mostly really excited about that. I did not really matter really who we got. I mean, I like AJ Johnson. That's a solid, solid add, kind of another pick from a recent draft, basically, that we're just stacking onto this roster. So it's been really cool to see just kind of the youth movement go, but really kind of that change in what Wizards fans have seen at the deadline or even throughout just moves that we've made where you really scratch your head and not really get too much back. And now you're seeing some assets kind of get compiled, which hopefully will be used in the right way. But it was just really encouraging to see them to finally make moves like this.
I was going to say, because Wizards are a part of the capture the flag sweepstakes that will be happening come this offseason. And because what year was the trade or the draft pick? Was it 26?
I think it was. I want to say it was 26.
Okay, because being from the Grizzlies, I mean, you're going to probably get a high. It's probably going to be in the higher end of the first round, just with how good they've looked, especially this year. But you're right. I think
sorry, it's 28 swap, 28 swap.
Well, alrighty then.
So so you're gonna have to make some. You're gonna have to keep consolidating to even get to 26.
Right. Because what do you have what's your draft capital this year? You have you have your own pick right this year.
Yeah.
And then do you have the Suns like swap or something?
I think it's this. Let me see. I gotta look this up really quickly.
You're all good. And the reason I bring this up because you guys are going to be in the sweepstakes for. I mean, you're already in the bottom 4 right now. You're the worst record in the NBA as of right now.
The Sun. Yeah, we still have like the Sun swap. Trying to see what else.
Thanks, Bradley Beal.
Yeah, so basically that, but that's still. I think it's around 2 though from that Sun swap.
Okay. Do you believe in the rumor that the Wizards are trying to go get Bradley Beal again?
I'm not listening to that.
Okay, cool.
Just bypassing that one.
Okay. Adam, let's fly on the wall because you really care about the Wizards over here a lot, I can tell. We'll stick with the Wizards for 5 more seconds, and then we'll go like to the deadline stuff because I think that's what we're all gonna dig into a little bit more. What did you think just about like them trading Kuzma? I mean, do you think they like got the better end of the deal for getting Middleton for Kuzma, or what do you think about just like the move the Wizards did?
Yeah, I mean, I think Middleton's like a much better player than Kyle Kuzma, but the availability is the huge part. I mean, the Wizards thing is all about like they need to hit on one of these like high picks. I mean, it's like all of this, like none of these like last few years like matter. Like the thought of them bringing Bradley Beal back is absolutely insane to me. But what is the point of having a high dollar like
right.
I mean, honestly, at this point, he's a role player. Like on your roster, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like you said, just let the young guys cook and kind of see what can happen. You're already in the bottom 4. You're going to stay in the bottom 4. There's way too big of a gap between those kind of bottom 4 teams and that next tier. So they've done what they need to do. And now it's about like, let's just let these in the last, 30, 35 games, let these young guys, develop and hopefully you have something going for the future. But they're missing a guy, obviously. So it's like, the Cooper Flag thing is kind of looming over really all 4 of those teams in the bottom. And even you could even say the San Antonio Spurs, the Atlanta Hawks pick that is going to drop as we go. Yeah. But I don't. Yeah, to me, if I'm the Wizards, I just like you finally picked a direction. Drop to the bottom of the league, take advantage of this very strange process that we have in American sports of rewarding losing, and just go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. Carl, how many Wizards games have you been to this year?
Only 2 this year. It's low.
That's okay. I think.
What's it like? What's it like? Like how many fans are there? Like really? Because sometimes they report a certain number.
So it depends on obviously like matchup. Because DC is so transient. So like you get like the Sixers come in. It's a Philly home game. Like stuff like that. You get pretty solid draws. But if you're not like usually if it's like if you're almost very fair weather. Like if we're not playing anyone that's of a whole bunch of note, like. I'd say like it's pretty empty in there. Like they're towards the bottom of attendance in a lot of those numbers. So I mean, really fun as like a fan where you're like I can go get some cheap tickets and just kind of sit in a nice place and enjoy the game. Like if you really love the game, like I get to see a lot of basketball without really a whole bunch of extra going on, which is honestly kind of a benefit of being around a team that's so bad is that you can really kind of take advantage of like if you purely just love the game and like want to see I don't know well. I guess, like go see like the Hornets on like a random like Tuesday. Like you can just go down and, like you'll find some solid price tickets and, get a chance to enjoy that. But it's usually pretty empty.
Because you saw the Timberwolves and who was the other team you saw?
It was Timberwolves and Knicks.
Oh, wow.
So the Knicks had a pretty good showing. I mean, they showed out.
New York fans. Yeah.
New York fans. I actually went with someone who's a big Timberwolves fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, no, then it is 3 games then. So I did also go to the Wolves. I went to the game where Ant dropped 40.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was fun. And so they were like the Nas Reed chants were like the loudest thing that happened in the Wizards home stadium that game.
I love it. I love it. All right. Let's talk deadline real quick here, Carl. Brought you on. I guess I was thinking about it. Was the last time we had you on when we did the Anatomy of a Franchise for the Wizards?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trying to think about that. Which Carl will also be a part of some of the stuff we're doing on the website, coming out with some of the player profile stuff, which I'm excited to have him. But also you can check him out on District of Buckets and in his own blog, which When will stuff continue to start? Will start getting posted.
It's like the second I have internet in my new apartment.
we were talking offline. Carl is just waiting for Verizon to get their shit together, and so that way they can give him Wi-Fi. Please, let's start here, Carl. We'll start with the big trade that everyone wants to talk about, and then we can get past it. Were you up at 11 o'clock, or I guess midnight on the East Coast on that Saturday night when Luka got traded?
Oh yeah, I was out. Yeah, I checked my phone. I didn't realize that. I didn't know if I was coherent enough, like what I was seeing. Like I don't think anyone believed that at the time. And then Shams had the so everyone was double taking. Had to do the "this is real" tweet to make sure that we all understood. That was insane. That was just for it to happen, just like quietly in the night like that
on a Saturday night that late. It felt like. You knew there were some people trying to hide it because it was that late at night because they didn't think people would be up that late to like actually see it, and then just to have everyone react on Sunday morning. Let me say this: in the short term, do you like it for the Mavericks?
I mean, I don't. Really? I mean, I don't. I just don't like any time that you give away like someone who is a face of a franchise.
Yes.
Like I just can't. Like short term, I can't really back it. Like I get it. Yes, there's like they had needs that they obviously weren't filling. It's just from one. It's like you have like the fan base. Like I know you got to the finals last year. I don't think they were going to be that type of team to get back this year with the kind of running it back. That's also we can go deeper into more reasons of why I think that wasn't going to happen because of the rest of the Western Conference. But I'm really against like trading that type of name, that type of value, and you really had a runway for them to try to figure this thing out with Luka, and then for them it just kind of feels like just a lazy like white flag for this era where like I really feel like they could have done a better job to try to maximize it, like even kind of building on what they did last year, and like I understand all the moves and everything, but like then you look at AD getting hurt in his first game, like you kind of get AD back. You talk about short term, like he's consistently banged up. Like there's no telling when he's going to get hurt. Like I can't blame too much of that because he was looking amazing. Like it looked great until he went down. They're still still trying to figure out what's going on with him and everything there. But I just do not think you trade someone of that caliber, someone who, I mean, I know they make the joke like you should have had a statue next to Dirk. Like you keep that guy if you can.
Yeah, I just really don't think the more we're a week out now, right? Since it happened, it's a week later, and like there's no basketball like defending it. I really don't like even short term, far term. There's no like defending it at all. I mean, the Max Christie thing is like nice, like you got an extra like good player with him. It's like it just doesn't matter. It's like Luka's a driver of offense and winning, like. Maybe 3 other players in the league have that level. You just do not like just having him on your team means like you're going to be like a baseline pretty good, and it's like there's so few guys that's the case, and like matching the timeline thing with like Kyrie and all that stuff. It's like you're way overthinking that. I think it's like Kyrie's like an awesome second option, but like you can find another second option when he moves on for Luka that'll fit with Luka. It's like I just. Yeah, it just really comes down to I think Nico Harrison just straight up didn't like him. It's like honestly like it seems that simple. It's like I don't really like this guy. I'd rather spend the next 3 or 4 years, which he said on mic in a press conference. I'm only gonna be here 3 or 4 more years. I'd rather spend it with a guy I actually like in Anthony Davis than a guy I don't like in Luka Doncic. I know that sounds like simplistic, but I actually think it like kind of boils down to that, which is just an insane way to run a franchise.
We've seen coaches and players and GMs all butt heads, and I think some players have got over it. The biggest one, like I think my favorite, the biggest example is still like the Lakers in the early 2000s, like just like everyone butting heads all across the board. I just didn't think that a GM would be so petty just because he didn't like a guy that like clearly like you're saying, Adam, like just say, hey, he's a top 5 guy, but we're going to move on from him. It made no sense to me whatsoever. I think, and yeah, like you both have said, straight confusion for the entire basketball world. Let's get to a team though we all are very excited about. Carl, you wanted to talk about the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes.
Talk to me what makes you happy and what makes you excited about this team? Because you are a De'Aaron Fox believer, right?
Yeah,
And
so
here's
I'm
the
a big
Williams
De'Aaron
again.
Fox believer, but also I like it for like Wemby's development. Just so because I know like early, they're able to get like Chris Paul to get like a veteran presence,
Right.
but having someone who's now like a veteran guard presence who's still, I mean, like within the prime of their career, like it's nice for a player of like what we project Wemby to be to kind of be alongside a guy like that. I think it really only like bodes well because at some point, if you're going to be playing like high quality winning basketball, like in the NBA, the way things are set up, like you're going to have multiple guys that, like you're going to have to be able to trust and understand that like they have a lot of faith in the abilities that they have to get things done. And I think Fox is that caliber of player just to kind of like, it's kind of hard to talk about comfortability being like an important thing in someone's development, but him being comfortable with, like maybe like, hey, we have that guy who like it's not like it hasn't really felt like it's all on his shoulders, but you have a lot of attention that's thrown there where like this is the first time I feel like there's a true guy that I've seen with him that I think defenses like like there's no point of, like loading everything to Wemby. Like you have a guy that can go kill you on the other side. Like, yes, they've had talent, that can show up here and there, but Fox has been very consistent over his career and just like having to see, just kind of how a guy like Wemby will react to that. And it seems like someone who continually grows and gets better. I think it can only benefit that whole team in the long run and more so for his individual development, being able to be alongside him.
Adam, I'm curious just because I think Carl is right. Like creating good habits early on is super important, and just like not having to be like the guy who's hucking up 25 shots a game. I think Wemby's felt like, I think there's been moments like Wemby's had to feel like he's doing that, like especially in his first year and a half in the league. And I think Carl is right. Just having that secondary guy or just like another guy to be like an offensive focal point. What is the benefit of also just like having a creator or just a guy like Fox who has like a great mentality of like, hey, I know when it's my turn, but like we've seen it with Sabonis too, of like when he's been paired with Sabonis, like, hey, I also know it's this guy's turn to like go get his.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect like match in every sense of the word. I think on the court, off the court, personality wise, like I think De'Aaron Fox is clearly the guy who knows like, hey, I'm one of the 25 best players in the league, but I don't need to be like the guy. I don't need to prove that anymore. I don't need to, it's like I just want to go win. His wife is from here, obviously, and he's from Houston, so I think that was a big driving force behind the trade and him wanting to come here. But I think the main thing was I get to play with Wemby, and I think the De'Aaron Fox and the biggest thing I've noticed in the 3 games, obviously they've lost 2 really tough ones by 1 point 2 nights in a row, brutal losses, ones that like the Spurs had to get if they're going to actually climb and actually make the playoffs.
Right.
But, is it slots everybody else where they actually should be. So like Wemby is a clear he's already a top 10 guy. But having De'Aaron Fox as that number 2 guy and really probably number 1 option offensively right now, it puts everybody else like Devin Vassell is much better as a 3rd or 4th option offensively, not the number 2. Chris Paul obviously can still give you plenty on a good night. He's had some really like awesome games. He's also had some games where he looks 40. So it's that's going to happen for a guy who is 40. So. I think that was what stuck to me the most, especially that first game against Atlanta. I was like, oh, like in that first half when he kind of went nuts, it was like, oh, everyone else is now in a position that makes sense for them. Like Sohan doesn't have to create anything; he can just be the junkyard dog. Like Kelvin Johnson can just be the kind of like little engine off the bench. Like there doesn't need to be like, oh wow, we got to look to you to like create stuff, and that's where the team fell apart. Was the last 4 or 5 minutes of games. They just had no fulcrum offensively, no like clear kind of like hierarchy of where we're going to go. And he's already kind of proven that. Obviously, this loss are tough, but he did hit a crazy shot that could have won a game if he got it off 0.1 second less. But so I'm super excited about that alone because now I actually get to see Devin Vassell and the role he actually should be in on a good team.
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest thing for me is just like they have a clear rotation now or a clear, I think you said right, the clear hierarchy of guys. My other thing I love is now that they also have 2 guys who can play both sides of the ball well. I think Fox's ability to also not that San Antonio is any better than Sacramento on defense. We haven't seen much of that, but I feel like Fox still has a great ability to be a good on-ball defender and still be smart. And so I'm interested to see how the Spurs team just moving forward can build a defense around just those 2 create what their roster creation can look like around those 2 just moving forward.
And And then the biggest wild card is how good is Steph Castle going to be? I mean, that's like we're just seeing like more and more, and like having De'Aaron Fox take away a bunch of attention, kind of in the backcourt is going to allow him to kind of play as a secondary creator, which is really his goal. I don't think he was going to be the long term like primary ball handler point guard. He really is better kind of feasting in transition, cutting things like that. So I think it actually puts him in a perfect spot too. And then he is going to be awesome defensively. So yeah, it's a really cool fit. They just need to start winning games. But that's going to come. I mean, this year was not whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, getting the play in, cool. But it's for the next 3-4 years where it's really going to pay dividends.
It's not the end all be all this year.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah. Carl, what else about the Spurs did you like, or what was the other? Was there anything else about the Spurs that like really intrigues you just moving forward with this year, or just with their future?
It really wasn't. I mean, I'm kind of along the lines of what Adam was saying, where like it gives everyone a pecking order, which is very, very important. Just like going forward, because then you have, if you can really figure out if guys are going to be in your plans long term, or what fits the team that you're building, because now you have more of a structure to figure out. Like, hey, like. Because like more than just it being like, hey, like you're a second, third option. It's like, what do we need from this combination of people? Or like, if the, say maybe Fox isn't the guy that works out, like, is it the archetype of like a De'Aaron Fox type of guard? Like, is that what you need? Like, so you're more able to kind of see what types of players you need to go ahead and be successful. Like now that you know that you can have some form of like a real hierarchy outside of kind of like the top dog that you have. So that's what I'm really excited about going forward. Because then from there you go, all right, and then maybe there's some other pieces like what else do they need from here to kind of flip that switch and maximize all of Wemby? And I'm a really big Wemby guy. Like I just want to see I want to see this unicorn succeed like any way possible. So seeing how it's going to take a little bit to kind of build this team is going to be interesting, and that's really that's really kind of all I got from the trade deadline. Just very excited from like the structure that they're going to be able to put around this guy now.
That's one of the things I came out of this deadline just excited on a lot of different teams. And I hate that I'm excited about the Lakers. That makes me that brings so much pain to my heart. But like just knowing that there's a next step and then there's a possible still rise to the Lakers, super fun. And it's good for the NBA when the Lakers are good. Carl, can you tell me how bad Kyle Kuzma is? And then can you tell me why it was stupid that the Bucks traded for Kyle Kuzma and not someone else?
Oh man. Well, where do I start? We'll start with him being a black hole offensively, but I think a lot of it had to go with him coming to DC and now starting talking about structure and hierarchy, where we had a structure here where it was designed for Kyle Kuzma to get away with taking whatever shot that he wanted offensively, which destroyed a lot of flow in the offense. I mean, yes, like there's nights when he's hitting and it looks amazing, but he shouldn't have Michael Jordan's shot selection for a guy that shoots like Kyle Kuzma. Like that just shouldn't exist. So that's one end. On the other end, like defensively, I mean, he seems like someone that when he has off shooting nights, it affects everything else that he does. And that trickles down through the entire game. And if you're supposed to be one of the leaders, that's something that I don't think you should be able to allow. There's, that front. Then you look at the young guys in the development where he was injured to start the year. They're playing a lot of competitive games, not winning, of course. Yes. Wizards. Yes. But playing a lot of competitive games, you're seeing a lot of things out of Bilal, kind of like what you're seeing now in the couple games since Kuzma's been gone. It just kind of allowed for a lot of those guys to get a lot more like pivotal minutes and touches when you don't have Kyle Kuzma kind of dominating the ball on that end. So I guess for the Bucks side of this, if you're kind of looking at why they would trade for him, I guess you're hoping you get some form of version of the more passive guy that played for the Lakers.
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for. Because if he thinks at all that he is the guy that he is on the Wizards with the ability to put up some of these shots, like there is like you're gonna have to sit down a bit. Like you got MVP over there, you got a guy that's won a ring in Giannis. I mean, and then you have, like Dame, like you need to tone that down and stand in the corner.
For sure.
which he's not even good at standing in the corner.
Well, it was announced literally right before this podcast, before we're recording. We're recording this at 11 o'clock Central on Sunday. Giannis is going to be out for a little bit, apparently. He sidelined till after the All-Star break, so he's missing the All-Star game.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know, right? People really care. Carl, we need to have you back on soon to just talk about how you want to fix the All-Star game, because I remember you and I texting about that last year. But
Just stop
I
playing it.
wonder, yeah, I wonder how just like with the first few games of Kuzma being there, if like with Giannis not there, he's like, hey, maybe I can shoot 25 shots still with Giannis
Well,
not playing. So
no,
that would
this
still be
this is the thing. He actually was good on the Lakers, like in 2020. Like he
Yeah,
was a big part
yeah.
of
No,
the championship team. Like he actually, but again, it was because there was a hierarchy, and he was like, "This is very clearly LeBron and AD, and then you guys are all way below us. Like, and you guys gonna figure it out." I mean, there were nights where Rondo was like their third best player. There were nights where Kuzma was definitely their third best player. So,
right.
no, he has shown in a playoff setting that he can actually do it. But that was 5 years ago. So, we'll see if those bad habits. He kind of chose the kind of like more money, more opportunity route, which is fine. I don't begrudge any player that, but it did create bad habits. We'll see if he can actually kind of like readjust his game. He probably thinks he can. So I guess we will see.
yeah.
Strange trade though.
I I totally agree. I just thought there was some. Was there really no market, or was there really nothing that they could give up for Cam Johnson? Was my thought, but I guess they probably just didn't have like the trade piece, like the draft pick, draft
Yeah.
capital to go get him. So there was a few other guys, but I was like, all right, Kuzma to the Bucks, great. They're just now large, and if they want to go big with size and like have Kuzma play the three, that would be.
Which I think is probably the outcome of that, right?
Do you think they start him, or did they just keep him coming off the bench and like say, hey, you can fluctuate between the 3 and the 4 with Taurean Prince and Giannis?
Yeah, I guess the bigger question is if he's in the finishing lineup. That's probably
that's fair.
Yeah. Which I think some nights he will be.
You're probably right.
Yeah, like again, like if you have that version of him, like Tyler Kuzma, you have that version of him, he kind of does fit in a lot of different places if he is that guy. But it's just more of a if he is willing to again do that, and then two, like is he going to be able to flip that switch?
Yeah. Adam, I'm going to start here. You with this one. Are we shocked that the Nuggets didn't do anything?
A little bit, but they've just shown in these post, championship years that they're just like, no, we're rolling with these younger guys and trying to do like a replenish with, draft picks and, hey, we'll keep our main 4, but yeah, other than that, because they said we took Michael Porter off the table. Like they were just like, we are absolutely not trading him. Michael Malone came out and just said that. So, once that was the case, it's like, well, you can't really improve the roster. Like there's no other way to really do it unless you trade him. So, they actually are playing well though. I'm not like, to me, Denver still very much has a chance to make the finals. So I'm not shocked. Like once they started to kind of like find some rhythm, and Jokic has obviously been unreal this year. So it's like, hey, we have this guy. Like, do we really need to upset this that much? The Westbrook thing has worked way better than anybody could have anticipated. So I think they just looked at it like, hey, who can we really get? Like if we're giving up Michael Porter Jr., like he does provide, a real threat offensively. That like, are we really going to get that back and more? So what's the point? So I'm not shocked that they didn't, but it did seem like a team that could do something. But in the end, I'm actually glad they kind of stood pat and just are rolling with what they have, and I'd love to see them in the playoffs. I still think if the matchups break right and they can kind of figure out a way to nullify some of OKC's threat, they could very well be in the finals.
Carl, my thought process is this: I'm still worried about like them not having a backup big, and their backup big currently is Dario Saric or Zeke Naji, and we've seen how Naji is nothing. We've tried the Naji project for a while, but they've tried it for a while, and there's been nothing that's come of it. And so my thought process is like, okay, could they be? I was shocked, like I don't know, like could they have not gotten in on the Valanciunas sweepstakes? Was he really nothing like they could have gone, or was Alex? Alex Len now we're just going to get a buyout. It seems like and it sounds like he might go to Indiana. Like, is there really no like market for them to go get any of these guys, or is it just like a fit thing for them? You think?
I'm wondering if it's a fit thing because I feel like if you want to run. But I guess the guys they have, it doesn't really make sense either. But like if you really want to keep running kind of the same thing, like that drop off, if you have any of these backup bigs, like what do you really? I don't know. Like I feel like they just need a warm body with the way that they play.
Fair.
And they have warm bodies. Like I don't know. I just like yes, like you wanted, like you think you could do better. I just don't think there's really anything for them right now that I think really makes them better than having to hope and pray that again Jokic can just
carry
them throughout the playoffs, which at this point is a better strategy than them trying to find a backup big that kind of fits well. Is just, hey guys, let's just get in the tournament, and then maybe the guy that's done it before can do it. Like, there's going to be things you're going to have to do in the off season to really solidify that. But I just didn't really feel like there's a. I guess if you're them, like, you don't really, like, you feel like you have a shot as long as you're in the playoffs, I guess. So just kind of rock with it until you can really make a solid move to bolster that. But that's got to be, I think it's an off season thing more than a deadline thing for them.
The Valanciunas one was one I was like really thinking about, just because, not that he's any sort of defensive semblance, but he's just, like you said, a warm body, but also like a tall body who could still like do something.
Yeah.
Again, he's not what he was like 3 years ago in New Orleans and like shooting 45% from three. But I don't know. There was just a part of me that was like, okay, can you still live on the minutes where Aaron Gordon in the playoffs is your rotational backup center? Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, can you still just throw Valanciunas or like Alex Len out there for like 8 minutes? But I guess, it's whatever. I'm clearly wrong, and Calvin Booth seems to have a plan that I do not foresee at all. What, Carl, was your biggest, like, I mean, of course, the Luka one is like the biggest surprise of the entire freaking deadline. Everyone was shocked by that. What was the other biggest surprise? Like, what was your biggest surprise trade that you saw happen?
I mean, surprise. I mean, well, not really surprised, but I guess for me it was more so just like confirmation. I think between confirmation of Fox like finally leaving, and like the Kings really like putting the nail in the coffin of like what we thought they were building about 2-3 years ago. Not really a surprise. Like, I knew there's going to be some sort of move, but it's just kind of, it's one of those ones that kind of stings, because like that was a team that I kind of thought that I wanted to see them kind of develop into something, but ultimately like didn't happen. And now they're moving on. For me as a Wizards fan, it's the fact that we got assets back. Like, that's I'm so used to just somehow there's a weird trade for either nothing happens, or we somehow get like a second round pick, and that's all we do, and actually kind of make some good moves. That's where my brain is. But really, it's just, I can't think of any other real surprises outside of Luka. Like, that was just so
that's a bombshell. Yeah.
I'm shocked someone gave up a first round pick for Brandon Ingram. That's where I'm like, and then in Toronto, like, of all places, Brandon Ingram going to Toronto, and Toronto saying, hey, he's worth a first round pick with the trade market we were seeing for him. I mean, for over a year now. That was
very strange.
What, last thing, and then we're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna do some Unrivaled talk. But one final thing for Carl, the other team I thought, and I went and saw them play last night, and I talked about this before you came on, was just this Grizzlies team, and they trade away Smart with a first round pick to the Wizards. Was that not another team you thought could have done something at the deadline, or was that someone you just thought, hey, they're solid as is, and they're just trying to alleviate this guy who's been a distressed asset, it seems, at this point in like their year and a half with them?
You kind of said it there. Is that they realized that they made a mistake with Marcus Smart?
Yeah, they gave up 3 total draft picks for Marcus Smart.
Yeah,
man. For what? How many games did he even play? I mean,
not many.
Yeah.
Not many. I think I over under. No, I'm gonna guess 50 games.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll look it up. Give me
Carl,
me.
What do you think?
A guess.
How many games do you think Marcus Smart played in a year and a half in Memphis?
Yeah,
year and a half
total games with Memphis. Okay, I got it right here.
Give me 48.
Okay, what'd you say, Mitch?
52.
It was 39.
Oh, sweet mother!
Only 39 games.
He didn't even make it through half a season. Like half a season of games. That's
crazy.
Close.
No, talk about selling high, man. Boston, perfect. Getting rid of him at the perfect time.
He still has that single game record, right, Mitch?
For threes?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure does. Thank you against Cleveland. God, that was crazy. All right, before we leave the NBA talk, Carl, we do this with all our guests, but what is your finals pick as of right now? We're right before the All-Star break. It's super dumb, but this is something we've done since the start of the pod. What's as of right now?
Oh, just in general?
What's your finals matchup going in?
Oh my God. That's always a tough one. Oh, man.
You do not have to worry about hurting my feelings. You're fine.
All right. So, I mean, I want the Cavs just because I don't want the Celtics to go back.
That's fair. That's
I
understandable.
I kind of want Cavs Thunder.
So, just chalk it.
Yeah. Very
good seeds.
Yeah.
Who wins it?
Call me chalky. Cavs.
Do you like the Hunter trade?
Uh,
Is it like the final piece for them?
Uh, I'll see. I think more so. I don't think that he was utilized to his best before, so I'm still kind of jury's still out on that. Like talent wise, I think it is something that I think he can slot in and be the final piece that they need. But I just don't feel like I saw enough before, like outside of like flashes, that I think like confirms me saying like he's the last guy on the title team, which is funny because I'm picking them to win the championship.
I was just say, really.
I just. I just love the rest of that team so much that I'm just rocking with the Cavs. I need a non-LeBron Cavs championship.
I need a non-LeBron Cavs finals appearance. Like, is that possible? We haven't even had that, so I just want to see that for the first time.
Yeah, but I will say that's what I think. But if I want to get fun with it, though, I would really like to see. I'd actually like to see like the Knicks find their way somehow. Knicks, yeah, I'd like to see the Knicks find their way, and then the fun one would be Knicks Wolves. That'd be fun.
Oh my lord, the Wolves would have to do a lot, especially with your guy Randall out, Carl.
Yeah, that would be that's like my fun. Like if the world was perfect, I would want that so bad.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate. Adam, has your pick changed? Because I think it was Thunder Celtics last time we talked.
It was. I mean, yeah, I know it's boring, but I'd probably stick with that as well. I mean, but on the DeAndre Hunter front, like they needed a big wing, like just badly. Like it just, that's the best option they could find. Then great. He's had a very good year this year, so it's like they just I think they're looking at that Boston matchup and they're like, man, we cannot go into that without like a size, wing that we can actually, try different lineups, go Mobley at the 5, Allen at the 5, play Hunter at the 4, kind of space it out. Like they had no real way to guard Tatum and Brown prior to that. So I do think he at least
playing the 4 more. It felt like Max Strus was playing the 4, and that's not fun.
So they just like had to do something, had to get a player of that archetype. And is he exactly the right fit? I don't know, but like the options were probably limited because like everybody's looking for a player like that, So I do think like of the available options, I'm sure that's probably the best one they could find. So I like that they're going for it. I'm with you. I think it'd be good for a team like the Cavs to make a huge run and a finals run, like towards not just these handful of teams that can win it. You could build a team this way too, and it can look a little bit different. It doesn't have to be just big wings. Like I think it'd be good to have a different style of team, make a deep playoff run. I think that'd be good for the league, to where it's not just the same style, over and over.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and I've talked about this before. I think one of my favorite things about the current NBA right now is that we have had so much parity, especially in since this decade has started. I mean, we have had. Hold on.
6 different champions the last 6 years.
Yeah, there's that. And then have we had outside the Heat, have we had, and the Warriors, Warriors haven't even repeated in.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, 17 and 18. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I meant like since the 20s. Since 2020.
No.
We haven't had outside the Heat, we haven't had a team make it to the finals twice.
And the Celtics.
Well, the Celtics. I can't count. Again, Mitchell math is terrible. I'm changing, like moving into this new role at work, and my boss asked if there's anything she should know about like me, and I was like, I can do great like easy plus math, but easy math like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, I might suck at that. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, I can do 82 minus 26, but that's like, but I can't do simple addition. So that was really unfortunate to say out loud. But Carl, we're going to keep you on real quick. We're going to come back after a quick break, and we're going to talk a little bit Unrivaled and your trip down to Miami. We'll be right back.
With your sponsored.
I wish. All right, we're back. Final part of the pod. And Adam's favorite thing he's done for the past few weeks is talk about Unrivaled, and I don't feel like I was doing enough justice to be a part of the conversation. So and Carl's still here with us. Carl went down to Miami and watched some of these games, and I need Carl's opinion on how it all went. I need Carl's like being there in the moment, seeing it all go down, and I need Adam to lead this because I think he's going to be the better voice of all opinions here. So Adam, why don't you take over here for talking about Unrivaled?
Yes, real quick before, because I'm very curious to hear how it was in person. But just so everybody, who maybe haven't listened before, Unrivaled 3-on-3 women's league happening down in Miami. It kind of looks like the bubble. That was kind of their goal, and it does kind of look like the bubble. I'm sure you can speak to that in a second, Carl. But Yeah, 3-on-3 women's league. The goal was kind of the 30 best players in the world. They got pretty close to that. It's full court, 72-foot court as opposed to a 94. The length is about the same. It's maybe like just under a foot shorter, lengthwise or widthwise, I should say. And yeah, it's super fast paced. It's awesome. They're about 7, 8 games in. Every team has played about 7 or 8 games. There's 6 teams, 5 or 6 players on each team, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So Carl actually went down to Miami. So yeah, every game is happening in Miami on the same court. They bring in people. About how many people fit in the little, oh, I don't even want to call it an arena. But yeah, how many people fit in that little soundstage?
I think it was like the number I heard was like around like 800 or so. It was something like that. It's like it's in like a studio out there in Miami. So
yeah, yep.
So like as you said, like bubble setup, like very intimate setting. Like you also get like one great view of everything going on, but two, the amount of like player family, like WNBA personnel that's also down there. Like you're bumping elbows with kind of everybody because you're all just in this like really close place. Like you all have to walk through like the same. It's like a little fan fest when you get in, which is nice, where you can go in and like kind of experience it and like, get like a trading card made of yourself. Yes, I did that. So you're kind of close to just everything, which was awesome. But yeah, it's about like 800 people. So.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, so the initial plan. So I mean, yeah, full disclosure, I know the president, pretty well. Obviously, it's Nafisa Collier's husband, Alex Bazell, and Nafisa Collier, along with Brianna Stewart, is like the head of the league. They started it. They're the co-founders. They obviously have equity in the league, as do most of the founding members here. So yeah, it's a really cool idea. I mean, it's like, hey, let's give the players like all of the kind of power here, and let them kind of run with it. And hopefully, as this gets bigger, their stake will rise. Their salaries are much higher than their WNBA salaries, even though it's a much shorter season. The business model, because they're only paying 36 players, is really smart. And then they got a TV deal with TNT and True TV and Max, and these games are on. So the highlights are really accessible. The website's pretty clean. Like it all, like from a marketing perspective, I think they nailed it. But what do you think, Carl?
Yeah, perfect from a marketing perspective. And then you can go back to like the launch and the way that they won't even introduce the players, where introducing the players itself was within a riddle. Like every player had like a social media riddle attached to it. Like you build a lot of buzz that way. There. And then on top of, kind of the TV deal, like you look at certain sponsorships that they have, like just, I mean, everything, like there was a sponsor attached to basically almost everything that you saw when you were down there, or if you're on TV kind of watching it. So, I mean, from the business perspective, really awesome. And then tying that into just the play that you get to see, like you realize that you're really kind of watching like a very pure form of basketball when you have like the 3-on-3. So it's, your eyes are always engaged. And then, add that with the marketing, like you create something that you can really build off and sell very, very well, because you're selling a really good product and you have a lot of buy-in from a lot of corporate sponsors as well too.
Yeah, and just from the style of play, I think you hit it. It's like it is just like super pure form, just space, movement, passing, screening. I mean, it's like the action is like super fast paced, much more so than like a regular kind of like women's 5-on-5 game. And I think that has made a huge impact in terms of like the enjoyment. And then the quarters are short, like it's a very like digestible game. And I know every night they have games. There's 2. So when you get a ticket, I assume you get a ticket for both games.
Yeah, you get a ticket for both games. So for example, I went just pulling some mine up here. So yeah, so you basically you get 2. There's like a short intermission between the first game, second game. Not really too much longer than time to go out and like maybe grab a snack and come right back in, and it's right back.
So it's like right between quarters, like of an NBA game.
It feels that way, yeah. That's how it felt to me. And then you still have your usual like, they still have the in-game presentation throughout there, which I will say, like as someone who works in professional sports myself and has seen a lot of different game presentation. Phenomenal job of one, you keep the fans engaged. It didn't matter like that you only had X number of fans in there. Like it really felt like they were trying to give you a full real stadium experience, from like, lighting. You'd even have the people hyping up the crowd, like within, because everyone's there for the most part. I feel like to either just kind of see the spectacle itself, or like fans of basketball, like you don't really have that tie to a team. Like I ended up at the end, having my allegiance go to Miss Basketball Club. Had to finally like put my foot in the ground and pick a team. But yes, had to get a little fair weather for myself though. There's mostly Mystics rookie from last year, Leah Edwards, big fan of UConn. So I was like, that's pretty much where I'm going. So you have like that whole experience is amazing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I could really add. I think that's really
Where
kind
was
of.
your seat? Where was your seat?
Oh, so I was. I don't think how many rows. I was probably like 4 or 5 rows up on an aisle actually, because I got the seats through the pre-sale. So I
Mm.
actually got them. I think it was also pretty cheap when I got them. So I got them for around like 60 something bucks, and then the resale on the exact seat would have gone up to like over 200.
Yeah, they're
Oh
not
my
cheap
Um,
on
gosh.
like resale sites. Yeah,
yeah,
they're not cheap.
and then the cool thing was in my section, so like to the right, I could see like I think it's where most of like they had like I think it was like friends, family, a lot of friends and family were there, and like some of the players who weren't playing that night. And then behind the basket, there was like where I guess they had some form of like a premium ish type of seating. But you could see in like the friends and family, and like every time like the players were done playing, would go talk to people over there. So they were like there, like fans would come up, get autographs, like very accessible. Very
Hmm.
accessible there, but you could see everyone. Like, I mean, like you could see. I know, Marina Mabry, for example, was like sitting like not too close, not too far away from where I was, and just like watching the games that were going on, and then like you'd see players that play games and just go like walk right up. It was just a very very like awesome experience being able to see like just like the star power that close. And then just kind of seeing the rotation of just how many different players they actually were able to get in this. Like the talent itself is just phenomenal for what they're able to grab together for an off-season league.
Yeah, it really is, and that was like a huge thing. Is like they talked about man the very best women's players in the world. I was with them when they were kind of first announcing it and everything, and the very best women's players in the world are incredible, and we want a way to showcase them without maybe having to fill out like huge rosters of like 10 and 12 people, because
Mhm.
that's obviously when it gets slightly watered down. So that was like a big goal of theirs. It was like we really want to be like 30 of the very best players in the world, so we can kind of see what this looks like when it's like that, and the action's been great. There was a couple players that I thought would not be great fits for the league that have actually turned out to be pretty good. And then there's some that you like knew right away. It's like, man, 3-on-3 with that much space, like they're going to be really tough, and they have been. But yeah, I was curious to hear. So the only real like kind of controversy that's like happened in terms of like a marketing perspective is I think the jerseys have taken a lot longer to kind of get sold, and that's been like a little bit of a talking point. But I mean, if that's your biggest controversy, that's you're in pretty good shape so far. And then they've only had to move one game because of
Yep.
injury, which was just this past weekend. So
Yep.
that's pretty cool that so far, because that was a worry too. I know they were like, man, if a couple people get hurt, like what do we do? But yeah, out of player safety. Which team was it that actually had the too many injuries?
It
Because
was.
it's Laces and Vinyl, the two that have not played. They've only played 6 games. Everybody else has played 7 or 8.
Yes, it was. I'm trying to think who it was. So I know. Was
Because
it?
Alyssa Thomas got hurt, she was not going to be able to play.
Yeah,
So yeah,
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 yeah. So yeah. Was it Jackie Young too? I
yes,
think.
and Jackie Young, yes.
Yeah.
So that's the Laces, right?
Yeah, laces. Yeah.
So yeah, that and that's the thing. The team names, like, I was going to ask you, do you feel like people are rooting for like these teams, or is it just like I don't really think the teams was really the goal. They were like, we want the best players, because look at the NBA, and like when it really exploded is when you marketed these players
Hmm.
individually. And so I think that was like a big goal. It's like, hey, let's market Brianna Stewart, let's market Nafisa Collier, let's market Angel Reese, let's market I mean anybody that's in this league, and push them, and then the stuff with the teams will just kind of follow. So like when you're there, are people wearing team gear? Are they like, is there WNBA jerseys? Or like what exactly, like what are people like rooting for?
So a lot of it's WNBA jerseys. So 'cause, one of the games I went to, for example, included the Phantom, a bunch of Liberty fans, of course, to go see Sabrina play. So it really was a lot of that. Like you were seeing people in like WNBA gear, and it was kind of a really cool. Like it almost felt like kind of like an all-star game type of experience.
Mm.
Where like everyone was there to support like their player who plays for their team, but it was like a really good like it's almost like an all-star game. Like there's really no animosity going on outside of just like no one hates any other team. Like you're just there for like a pure love of the basketball and the team that you have there. So yeah, no one was really. I think people went in and ended up like I'm gonna pick a team because I want to support a team in this.
Yeah.
But you were there starting out with players for sure.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the goal too. Is like obviously this first year, there's no history with these teams, so it's like, how are you going to like have like
Mhm.
what makes it interesting to be like a Liberty fan is you now have like a 28-year history of like with that
Yeah.
team. So as the years go on, you maybe do grow an attachment, especially if players stay with those teams. It's like, oh, I think when I think Lunar Owls, I think Nafisa Collier. Or I think Nafisa Collier, I think Lunar Owls. So you hope that happens eventually. But I do think it was smart to like not have them represent like a city. Like that wouldn't have made any sense, obviously, this early on. But so do
I
you
would,
think Miami, like, are you like, oh wow, this is a perfect host? Like I hope they kind of keep this here, because I know their goal is eventually to have Miami as a base, but then travel around. And they knew they weren't going to be able to do that the first year. They wanted to kind of build. So the goal is to eventually travel around. But like having experience in Miami, you're like, oh, this makes sense. This is a perfect base for it.
Yeah, I liked it. I think in general they should. I mean, even if they're looking to move around, I like them just having the home base, and just kind of having it be almost like like a small like mecca for women's basketball in the off season, the W off season. Because I feel like once you go and you get the travel in there, I feel like that. I don't know where that's going to impact kind of like the talent you can get if there's some people who just like in the off season are like they like the fact that they don't have to really go around too much. I don't know where that lies. I mean, you have to balance, like, because if it's that player focus, it's like you know making sure you can keep this crop of talent that you have. So I wonder if the travel is something that like all like the entire like league would want to do. I know like as a business, like that would be my goal. Like would be like you know kind of like have this hub in Miami. You know, we play most of these games, but being able to go and travel different places and kind of, I mean, you see how like the growth of the women's game where like the arenas that, you know, we're getting sold out in the WNBA this year that like we started to see things that we just had not seen in a while. So like they have the pull, like if you have the right player in the right city, like if you, like for example, like if they go and they play in New York and you have, you know, Sabrina there, like that will get packed out.
For sure.
So that's definitely there. I think more of just me, like selfish as a fan, like I kind of like it. I like it having a home base, like giving people like something to kind of go to. If you're really kind of pushing, you know, like having like the TV deal drive most of it, like I think that's perfect. But I think I think to kind of maximize like the growth that's kind of happened over the last couple of years, that like eventually you're going to have to go and move this to maybe have multiple hub cities, or I don't know, at some point if you can get, you know, let's say you have multiple, like more than enough players and can even expand a little bit where, you know, maybe you have like 2 kind of hub cities or something like that. But that I was a fan of having Miami. Like I felt like it was a perfect place to kind of get everything started.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
Question for you guys, because throwing my 10 cents in here. No, okay. So Adam, you brought it up earlier, and Carl, you kind of talked about like just like, you know, it being a player-owned league. Like, what, like, are there contracts just for these specific teams, or are, like, they able like to just like move after like the season's over? Like, can they just like switch teams, or like do they get reshuffled, or what's like the whole deal?
The majority of them are on 2-year contracts, and
Okay.
they started out with the 2-year contract. That was like kind of the commitment. It's like, hey, we'll commit 2 years to you. I know TNT is going to commit at least 2 years to the TV deal. So that was kind of like a big thing. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a reset after year 2. But I would imagine if it's successful, you'll probably keep people in place for the most part. I mean, look, you can see the standings already. You know, Lunar Owls are 8-0. That's Nafisa Collier's team, and Brianna Stewart's team, the Mist, are at the bottom of the league at 2-6. And so I'm sure if Brianna Stewart's running the league, there's going to be a point where she's like, I'm going to need a little more, you know, help. So whether that's bringing in somebody who's not in the league already, which obviously there's 2 very big names that they're going to chase, you know, hard again. Right. And you know, maybe that's the way you kind of like, you know, balance it out a bit. But I'm sure there'll be some movement, but I think they want to keep it, at least for these first couple of years, like relatively similar, to kind of really get a foothold. And I think you hit it, Carl. It's a TV product right now. Like they know that's the driver. That's like the biggest driver of the NBA's financial might. So it's like the revenue you gain from attendance is not anywhere close as high as the TV deals now. That's the case, you know, in all sports,
Right.
all major sports, I should say. So that's their thing. It's like, let's make this a really cool TV product to make sure it works on TV, and then eventually we can kind of travel around if we want to. But I'm going to bet they keep Miami as a hub. I know the deal they got in Florida was much better than the one they were going to get in LA. So on that soundstage. So yeah, I think Miami will probably stay a hub. I do think the traveling around thing would be really cool though if they're able to pull that off next year.
That'd be super fun.
But the contracts are really like with the league, if that makes sense. Like. Yeah,
No,
like
I
think,
that.
yeah, it's like it's like from what I understand, it's like an entity, and like, you know, the place
So
on a certain team.
I was gonna say, so there's not like trades.
I mean, they might do that. They did do one, right? It was who did they move? Natisha Heidemann moved because it was like, oh, that team actually needs like a little more. Somebody got hurt, and so it's like that makes sense. She was kind of a late arriver, and then they actually moved her to a different team. So, but no, there's not going to be like a trade deadline, and like I mean, it's not really. Yeah, it's not really about like the player movement. It's more like the game itself.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
there's no player empowerment era already in the Unrivaled. There's no.
Well, there is, but more from like an ownership point, right?
That's fair.
So it's like rather than like, oh, I need to move. Like the goal is that we hope you like this league and you want to stay where you are. It's not about like, let me push to get somewhere else, you know? And that's like, everybody's on an equal footing. We're all in Miami. So it's like, oh, I want to get to a better city, or I want to get to a better fit. It's like, we're all in the same boat. So like, let's just kind of like make the best of it. So I think that's like, they all want to be like rowing in the same direction and growing the league together. That's really the goal.
That's fair. I like it. I watched the first weekend and I watched a bit of the second weekend. There's games tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay,
One-on-one tournament
It's
starts tomorrow.
one-on-one tournament starts.
One tournament starts tomorrow. Okay.
Yes.
And then I will say a big thing if you are getting into it for the first time is so it's really also interesting to note where like a lot of like the top talent WNBA like typically comes from a lot of very like structured college, especially on like the like sets and things that they run that you get to see like these players in like a way more creative environment, which is amazing. Like there's just like you don't really know sometimes like what professional basketball players like typically have in their bag until they're in situations where you're kind of forcing people into a lot of these like one-on-ones and things like that. So like that was also like my opinion. If you haven't gotten a chance to see it, like that's a big reason why. It's like you get to see like a lot more creativity than you would probably normally see in a 5-on-5 game.
Yeah,
that's great. I mean,
I know this is maybe strange for me saying this because I am a basketball coach, but I think much of the college and pro game is overcoached, especially in a 5-on-5 setting. And so, yeah, that has been really fun. It's like there are coaches for each of these teams. I think they're doing good jobs. And there's obviously little things you can do, like little spacing things and sets you can run. But it's way more about the creativity and the mental strength of the players and the kind of the quick thinking and like the reacting of the players. That's like this game is much more about that. So, which I've very much enjoyed so far. And obviously would be cool, in the men's or women's game. But I think it's really giving us a chance to see for the first time women kind of play like this and really kind of show their creativity. Like I think Kayla McBride, who had like a pretty good season, but she's been like amazing in this league. And it's like, oh wow, like when she actually has freedom and can kind of take different types of shots, she's even better than she is in the WNBA. So there's been a few players like that. That's been really cool to watch too.
You like that? You have like Courtney Williams as well. Courtney Williams Courtney Williams got we saw a little bit of it in like the WNBA finals where like like kind of when she's able to take over where it's like this, like if you're put on an island with Courtney Williams, like it's fun to watch. And then Enrique, like
we knew she was going to be really hard.
Yeah.
That's always been
you really don't have that much help against her. Like you're on an island on defense.
What's funny? She was the example people used, like the two guys who like really. I was with a bunch when they were starting the league, and they said they're like, man, they used her as an example, like, man, she's going to be a massive problem in this league. Like it's going to be so like I mean, when you're on an island just in 5-on-5 with her and stuff. Like imagine just like you basically don't have help. Like it's going to be really difficult. So yeah, it's funny. Yeah, she's been awesome. But no, and Nafisa's been incredible. I mean, it's like the league that she helped start. It's like kind of a perfect fit for her as well.
And yeah, like you said, Adam, there's two big names. It's Asia and Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, yeah, those are the two I think big. Like if they really had their choice, those are the two that they really wish they could have that they don't.
So Caitlin Clark gonna join Angel Reese's team.
I would doubt that, but
Okay.
You never know. Maybe that's a marketing play. Yeah,
that would actually be a pretty good marketing play.
Yeah,
that's my thought. Either that, or you just have her join the Breonna Stewart team, who clearly needs some help there. Yeah. Either one of them. But I feel like Asia Wilson and Breonna Stewart might be a cheat code too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't think you'd have them together. It'd be, I think the CC and Breonna Stewart combo would.
Yeah. Someone calling you?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. You're all good. All right. Awesome. Carl, final thoughts on Miami. What was your favorite part of the trip though?
All right, favorite part of the trip, easily. Well, I was lucky. So behind me, a couple rows behind me is where like the Mystics front office was. So whenever like the Mystics players like finished playing, like they had to walk up. So I got to meet Aaliyah Edwards, take a really bad selfie that I I made blurry. I apologize for that one if that ever makes the rounds. But yeah, so we got to meet players, and then that was really cool. Just kind of seeing like people all just joining together to watch basketball purely. Like there wasn't really like the NBA, for example, has just gotten to a point where I feel like it's just too much about the narrative and a lot of things going on where like I could just go to a place and just be like, oh, like this is an entertaining game. Like that you don't really get a whole lot anymore. And that was what I really liked about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the environment of these games is like, it's so intimate. And I think it gave me like small high school vibes. Like of like, hey, these are people who genuinely care about these games and they're into it at every second.
Mm.
Like Adam, it felt like it. I don't know if I used this comparison, but it felt like just watching some of them. It felt like the Lutheran High St. Charles gym. Just like everyone is right next to you, and it's just like right on top of the court. And I think that's what makes it so much fun when you are watching these games.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, Carl. It's like, and I think that was a big goal there. Since I'm sure they'd be glad to hear you say that. Like, let's make it about the basketball again, and not just like the drama and the outside stuff. And now I get it, the drama stuff sells, and it's part of it. But like, maybe it's selling because that's all we've been given. It's like if we're actually given just kind of like pure basketball, maybe that actually will kind of sell again. And the women's game is in this really interesting point where it's like trying to thread this needle of like, you want to celebrate it and be really like positive about it, but there's like this kind of too far you can go with that, where it's just like, it's like the way it's talked about is almost like patronizing, like, oh, look at these women, like they're good too, it's like that's not what the players want, and so like you have to find this balance, but also like it is different and it doesn't need to be as vitriolic, because like that's something I enjoy about the women's games. It's not as like tribal and vitriolic as like a lot of the men's game, and I think that's a good thing. Like that's not like, I'm not saying like, oh, women are soft. Like that's a good thing. Like they're actually able to kind of coexist in this like league. I mean, how many stupid stories would we get if this was like happening in men's basketball, where like there'd be like feuds and stuff like that, and guys would be, it's like guys just like are incapable, and also guys would not do a one-on-one tournament. Like the egos are too high. They would not actually participate in this. I really don't think they would, especially if it was televised. They would do it behind closed doors for sure. I mean, guys do that all the time, but that is something I really admire about this league and kind of the women's mindset in general. As someone who coaches both boys and girls, like they are just like less egotistical about this stuff and just like, no, let's just like actually just compete and see who wins. And I think it has found this nice balance of like, hey, let's criticize the play, and let's actually talk about basketball in like a smart way, but not be so like, oh, it's just all great all the time and celebratory. And it's like they found a nice balance. I think this league is like a perfect example of that.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of that. It also really feeds into this kind of style of play itself. And then one thing that I really do love is like when you talk about like just like a really important thing for the women's game is just to kind of watch it as basketball. Like you said, like don't like have people kind of like might kind of like get to that level where it seems like it's almost patronizing. Like from a just pure product on the court aspect, like there are times, not even times, I'd say most of the time I go to women's basketball games, from like physicality on the court, like being able just to go in, like they'll get chippy, they'll get physical. It's like all the stuff that like, we all love in general. Like you have that, but then like you can still like that game can end. And then all of a sudden, like we don't have to have a whole bunch of like the random like rumors and all that stuff. Like yes, of course there's like, especially in a league like this, there's with a lot of movement in the WNBA, like yes, people are thinking about tampering and things like that. Yeah, whatever. But
for sure,
like you're not really getting a lot of that. It's like I can go ahead, enjoy this really good product, and then just kind of like you take a step back and it's like, all right, next game. Like, what am I watching?
Yep.
Great point. Carl, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. You got to go see a Wi-Fi guy. Where can people follow you and keep up with your stuff? And then when is the first things can get posted here on the blog?
Yes. So you're looking at, follow me at Buckets District, but District of Buckets, everything there. districtofbuckets.com. Website's up and running. And if this goes well today and I actually have internet, we'll see hopefully within the next 24, 48 hours, I'll have something posted, but need to really just finalizing some things that I've written. And then kind of one of them is actually recapping the trip that I took. So more on that when that's up. And yeah, that's really about it.
Appreciate it, my man. Thanks so much for joining us. And then, we will be back next week. One final thing. Carl, who are you cheering for today? Who are you cheering for the Super Bowl?
Let's go Chiefs.
Damn it. I guess you're a Commanders guy. So
my team lost an NFC Championship game. Why would I root for that team?
Well, that's Adam, an interesting thing is like, do you want to like have lost to the team that won the Super Bowl, or is it like, I just don't want to see them win it?
No, if I see the team I lost to winning a championship, I go, that should have been me. So no.
Yeah.
That's fair. Adam, what are you doing for the Super Bowl? Because I don't think you care about the NFL.
I don't really. I'll definitely watch it, and I've actually watched every playoff game. I just watch it recorded, and so like what takes a normal person 3.5 hours to watch a playoff game takes me about 45 minutes. So I'll go. I don't really care who wins. I mean, it'd be nice to maybe see a different champion. Although I do like, I very much am one of those like, I don't like they win all the time. I don't want to see them win. It's like the whole point of sports is like to try to win a bunch and like have sustained greatness. So to see a team three-peat would be pretty cool. To like, in my lifetime to see a team three-peat, that'll be something that'll be very, very hard to do. Obviously, it's never been done in the Super Bowl era. So I'm kind of cool either way. I actually hope it's just really close. Like last year's game was really fun down the stretch. So I hope we have something like that.
I have a wife who's a massitive Chiefs fan, and I have a brother who's a massive Eagles fan. So I am saying, let's go football today.
There you go.
I'm rooting for peace. I see.
I am rooting for peace. 2 years ago, there was no
an
peace.
NFL hat like Rob Lowe. Yeah, just
No, I'm going to be wearing navy blue today, and I'm going to be the man of peace and just sitting in the middle. I'm Switzerland today.
Nice.
So yeah, everyone go follow us on X, Instagram. We're not on Snapchat, YouTube. Go watch the video pod on YouTube as well. And then tomorrow, I said it earlier, I have a blog for the game recap that I went to yesterday, the Grizzlies Thunder game. And then I also have a tier ranking that is coming out later this week. Just some thoughts about the trade deadline. I have balloons coming again. I don't understand it. I have doubled up balloons today. I need to stop doing the peace sign. I think that's that triggers the balloons. Go Celtics. Go Spurs. Go Wizards. Just continue, and hopefully they get Cooper Flag. That's what we're hoping for, Carl. Yeah. Have a great rest of your week, guys.